Hello, friends, and welcome to Prosto Safari with Dr. Prabhi. Today, I'll be discussing with you secondary impressions in complete denture. I'll be discussing it under the following headings: introduction, history, definition, purpose of secondary impression, lab procedures prior to secondary impression, in which I will be covering finishing of the primary cast and fabrication of the custom tray. Friends, as we know, impression making is an art. Making acceptable final impressions when fabricating complete dentures is an important requirement for the successful treatment of edentulous patient. It requires certain amount of skill and proper knowledge of the anatomy of oral cavity. As stated by M. Devan, an ideal impression must be in the mind of the dentist before it is in his hand. He must literally make the impression rather than take it. So basically, a good impression is basic for the construction of a good denture. So all the principles, the retention, stability, and support, they need to be followed while you are making an impression. So coming on to the history, it was in 1845 to 1899 when the concept of making primary and secondary impression was introduced. The primary impression was made with gutta percha, beeswax or mottling compound, followed by a wash impression made of plaster within the primary impression. Then between 1900 to 1929, the concept of escape holes was introduced, that escape holes have to be given within the final impression tray, and the various methods of border molding were introduced. Then the biologic concept was introduced. The custom tray was made with metal, vulcanite or base plate. Between 1930 to 1949, introduction of new impression materials like reversible hydrocolloids, zinc oxide eugenol were there, and there was the concept of construction of custom tray which was emphasized. Then between 1950 to 2009, various impression techniques were introduced. Now, coming on to the definition. So, what do you mean by secondary impression? It is an impression that represents completion of the registration of the surface or object made for the purpose of fabricating a prosthesis, also referred to as master impression or final impression. Now, the question that arises is, why do we need another impression during fabrication of a complete denture? Why not just one impression? So, friends, primary impression, which you usually make with the help of a reversible hydrochloride material or impression compound, you follow a mucocompressive technique. The soft tissues in the palate and sulcus get displaced. So basically, you're getting an overextended impression. A denture using this impression will lead to overextended borders, and the denture will lose retention and get displaced during soft tissue movement. So this is the reason why we need to make another impression. The procedures which you need to follow prior to the master impression making is finishing of the primary cast, fabrication of the custom tray, border molding, and then tray preparation after border molding, followed by second wash impression. So first of all, finishing of the primary cast, we place the impression in the warm water bath till the impression compound softens. Usually we make the impression using the impression compound. So the procedure to remove it is you place the impression in the warm water bath till the compound softens. But always take care that it has to be softened thoroughly, because if not, the cast may break during removal, and if over softened, the material leaches into the cast and it becomes difficult to remove impression compound. Now, coming on to the fabrication of custom tray, what do you mean by custom tray? According to GPT, it is defined as an individualized impression tray made from a cast recovered from a preliminary impression. It is used in making a final impression. Also, it is known as individualized tray or special tray. So basically, a custom made device is prepared for a particular patient, which is used to carry, confine, and control an impression material while making an impression. So these are the three C's related to the custom tray: carry, confine, and control. The purpose: why not stock tray? Why do we need a custom tray? Why cannot we take the make the impression in the stock tray? Because the edentulous ridge shows variation in shape and size, and the stock tray can fit the ridge only in an arbitrary manner. So we cannot make an accurate impression using the stock tray, and for that purpose we need a customized tray which is particular for a particular patient. The objective of custom tray is to allow uniform distribution of material, for planned distribution of pressure, for confinement and control over the impression material, for recording the minute details, and to achieve a proper border seal. The advantages of custom tray include it helps in better adaptation to the oral vestibule, it helps in providing more accuracy in the impression, allows even thickness of the impression material, easier, is quicker, less bulky, and is cost effective. The criteria for custom tray construction is first is it must not impinge any of the oral structure. Secondly, the borders must be underextended about 2 mm from the oral vestibule. It should be made up of a rigid material and should have a sufficient thickness. Must have a handle for manipulation. The handle must not interfere with the functional movement of the oral structures, and it should not have any sharp corner or edges because that will ultimately injure the patient when you are doing the border molding. Now, there are three types of special tray. You can have a spaced special tray, closed fit special tray, or a special tray with window depending on the patient's condition. The custom tray with spacer is indicated for ideal ridges where a uniform pressure can be given to the entire denture bearing area. Impression is made of the tissues in an undistorted space state, and the spacer is provided using the base plate wax. The custom tray with relief, which is also known as a close fitting tray, in this, relief is given over the non-stress bearing areas, which in maxilla are incisive papilla and mid-palatine raphe. In mandible, we have the crest of alveolar ridge. So basically, this produces a selective pressure distributing more load over the stress bearing areas. Now, if we look at the difference between the closed fit and the spaced special tray, in the closed fit, there is no space between the tray and the oral tissues of the residual ridge, no spacer is used, and mucodynamic impression technique is followed. Whereas in spaced special tray, space is given between the tray and the oral tissues of the residual ridge, spacer is used, and a mucostatic impression technique is followed. Then the custom tray with the window. This tray is indicated for flabby and displaceable tissues and is usually, if we look at the flabby areas, the anterior ridge is affected. A minimal or controlled pressure impression is indicated for such tissues, and the affected area is marked, blocked out in the preliminary cast, and then the custom tray is constructed without involving the area. We can also adapt a relief wax if required, additional to the spacer wax. Additional relief may be required for abnormal clinical situations that should be recorded without pressure, like the lingual phenum area, myeloid ridge area, or additional relief wax can be added onto the flabby areas. The advantage it helps to record the relief tissues in a state of anatomical rest. So here in the diagram, we can see we have a relief area. This is the relief wax. These are the stoppers. This is the spacer, and this is the tray that has been fabricated over it. Then comes the spacer. A layer of wax is placed within the impression tray, which when removed leaves a space in the impression tray. The tissue stops are prepared, which is the part of special tray that extends into the cutout of the spacer. This is done to stabilize the tray during the impression making procedure. So various authors have given various designs of the tissue stops. Like Radin Morrow has, according to Radin Morrow, three tissue stops should be made 4 into 4 mm equidistant from each other. According to Sherry, 4 tissue stops must be made 2 mm in width, located at molar and canine region. They should extend from the palatal aspect of the ridge to the mucobuccal fold. According to Shetty, tissue stops should be placed 2 in the canine region, 2 in the molar region, and according to Dale E. Smith, tissue stops must be made in the canine region. These are the materials which can be used for fabricating spacer, modeling wax, in case you are making the tray with the help of acrylic, or you can use a non-asbestos casting liner if you are fabricating the tray using the shellac base plate. Then we have different spacer designs. Various authors have given different spacer designs. For example, the first diagram here shows the spacer design given by Roy MacGregor, in which a sheet of metal foil has been adapted in the region of incisive papilla and the mid-palatine raphe. Then comes the nail design, where adaptation of 0.9 mm of casting wax has been done all over except the PPS area. The Sharry's design, where a layer of base plate wax has been adapted over the whole area outlined for the tray, even in the PPS area. Bernard Levin design, where a layer of pink base plate wax about 2 mm thick has been adapted over the residual ridge area. Halprin's design, where the impression tray has been fabricated with peripheral relief. Shetty's design, in which the stress bearing areas are exposed. Then we have the Daly Smith design, Boucher design, where the 1 mm base plate wax has been adapted on the cast except the PPS area. And finally, the Rudd and Morrow design, where full spacer has been adapted even in the PPS area with 3 tissue stops. So these are the various spacer designs given by various authors. In this chart, I have summarized the various spacer designs according to various authors. Then coming on to the thickness of spacer. So the question is, what should be the thickness of the spacer? Friends, it will depend on which type of impression material you are going to use for your secondary impression. If you're using impression plaster, 2 mm of spacer thickness has to be given. If you're using zinc oxide eugenol, 0.5 mm of thickness has to be given. If you're using alginate, 3 mm, or if elastomeric like light body, you can give a 0.5 to 1.5 mm spacer thickness. Then after you have applied your spacer onto the cast, your next step is the application of separating media. So you apply it to avoid the special tray from binding. Commonly used separating media are called cold mold seal, which is the preferred choice. You can also use Vaseline. Next step is to adapt tin foil as separating media. This tin foil is adapted over the spacer to avoid transmission of exothermic heat released during the polymerization of acrylic custom tray towards the spacer. These are the various materials for making special tray. We have shellac, cold cure polymerizing resin, tray compound, and light cure tray compound. So I'll be discussing about these various materials one by one. First is the shellac. The advantages include it is inexpensive, can be easily manipulated, can be readapted even if it distorts. However, it is very brittle, it lacks dimensional stability, tends to distort easily, and sometimes wire may be required to strengthen it. Also, it is very heat sensitive. The visible light cure tray material, urethane dimethacrylate, is commonly used. The advantages are it provides sufficient rigidity to be used in fairly thin sections. It has excellent dimensional stability. It is quick and very easy to fabricate. It hardly takes 6 minutes for the fabrication of this tray. But the disadvantages are it requires a special light curing unit for processing. They are hard when cured, so very difficult to trim if you compare it to the acrylic material. And the impression materials such as silicone putty or polyether may cause distortion or fracture of the tray on removal from the mouth. The thermoplastic resins made of vinyl polystyrene materials can also be used, which are available in the form of sheets, and they can be adapted over the cast in the manual method or by vacuum formed machine. If you're using a manual method, then the material is softened in the water bath at around 77 degrees Celsius, and then it is adapted manually onto the cast. The advantages are it provides excellent adaptation. However, it has less strength and is expensive and requires expensive specialized equipment if you are adapting it using vacuum formed machine. Autopolymerizing resins, commonest used material. It adapts well to the cast, can be trimmed to adequate thickness. It provides good thermal properties. It is easy to fabricate, biocompatible, inexpensive, and provides good stability to the tray. But the disadvantages are it cannot be readapted after warpage. Trimming and finishing is very time consuming. In the presence of undercuts, the material may get logged into them and may tend to break the cast. There are two methods to fabricate using the acrylic method. either sprinkle on method or dough method. But for the fabrication of custom tray, dough method is preferred because it is easy to obtain uniform thickness and to get less porosity, and also it is time saving. If you compare a shellac base plate special tray using with the self-cured acrylic resin special tray, so self-cured acrylic resin tray has higher strength, higher rigidity, is not distorted by temperature, is well adapted and can be easily constructed. So self-cured acrylic resin has much more advantages as compared to the shellac base plate. Then the tray compound, it is a type of impression compound with more filler content that is more rigid and dimensionally stable, does not have flow properties of impression compound, and hence cannot record the fine details. Then in the previous slides, I told you that we have to fabricate a handle over the custom tray. Now again, various authors have given various dimensions of the handle. Like Rudd and Morrow have given, according to Rudd and Morrow, the handle should be 3 to 4 mm thick and 8 mm long. According to Neal, it should be 4 mm thick, 10 mm long, and 10 mm high. And according to Levine, it should be 3 to 4 mm thick. In the maxillary, the handle is made in the anterior area, keeping it at a 45-degree angle, whereas in the mandibular, the angle to be kept is 90-degree, and two additional handles can be given in the posterior area over the molar areas, which can act as rest seat. The criteria of the handle is it should be parallel to the long axis of the teeth that are to be replaced and should not arise horizontally from the tray because it may interfere with the lip movements. So after you have fabricated the tray, now before starting with your border molding, the step is to check for the tray extensions intraorally. So you have to check whether the peripheral borders are 2 to 3 mm short of the vestibule. The cheeks and lips are pulled towards the tray to see if it displaces the tray, and any overextension if found, the areas will be trimmed. You check for the labial flange clearance and the labial frenum clearance. So it is very important to relieve the frenum areas, both the labial and the buccal frenum areas. They are to be checked. In lingual areas on the tongue movements, if the tray raises posteriorly, the distrolingual flange needs adjustment, and on the lateral tongue movement, if the tray displaces, it indicates contralateral side overextension. After correction, the tray border should be smoothened to avoid injury from rough or sharp margins. So this was all about the secondary impression. This, friends, here I have covered secondary impression in half. Next part, that is the technique of border molding, will be covered in the next video. If you have any doubt, you can comment or mail me at prostosafari. For topics you specifically want to learn related to prosthodontics, kindly comment. I'll be happy to make a video on that. Be safe, everyone, and I hope you people will participate in this Prosto Safari with me. Thank you, friends.